welcome to this video. Trying a little bit different here with the start of this one, getting all fancy with the GT, but you know, playing around with some editing and stuff, so hopefully you enjoyed that little montage of the GT itself. Thank you very much for Emmett for allowing me to use his photos from the event. So yeah, the GT, wow, what a weekend of 5 amazing games played of Age of Sigmar, hosted by Saltmine Gaming, which is Archie, Stevie and Neil, held at the Black Box in Belfast city centre. It was a really, really good event. As you can see, I got up pretty early and I was down there to help pretty much finish setting up before we all started after 9 o'clock, and it was amazing. So I'm going to go through each one of my games and I'll talk about my view of the event and Age of Sigmar as a whole at a competitive level. And I'll talk about my army. So first up, my army, obviously, I've gone through my list. There's another video about the preview of the list, and I cover my list in that. In retrospect, now that I've been able to get hold of my little chameleon skinks, my list will probably change and would end up being about 1,990 points once I bring those 2 units of skinks into the army. Before I go into the games, I'm pretty impressed with how my army played. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot with each game as I progressed through and playing the different opponents. And I had a good mix of opponents. I played 2 Lumineth Realm Lords. I played Blades of Khorne. And I played against Stormcast Eternals, and then I finished off with Maggotkin of Nurgle. So yeah, it was pretty good. So first things first, let's go through the games. Now, I haven't been sent all of the score sheets, so I was going to put up the score sheets and go through everything, but I wasn't sent them. So, you know, so first things first, we had I had against I didn't do it. So I had against Ethan with his Lumineth Realm Lords, and it was pretty good. We were playing, what was it called? Can't remember now. Starlight or Starflight or Starfall. Now, in regards to that, we both played the scenario wrong. We only dropped 1 objective down in battle round 3 when we should have done 2, which is fine. I don't think it would have made a massive impact. It may have changed 1 or 2 little bits and pieces, but I think the game pretty much ran its course by that point anyway. It may have changed 1 or 2 things in the latter, like turn 5, but I don't think it would have massively changed the result. It may have closed the gap a little bit. But that ended 44 to 26 to myself. It was a really, really good game. It was fun. Ethan has had a big block of 10 wind chargers. He had a Hurricane Wind Mage. He had a Fox, which would be the bane of my existence. He had the mounted character from the Ynnari Lord. The named one with Demon's Bane, and then he had a big block of 10 of Dawn Riders, and then he had a couple of wizards in the backfield, and 10 Blade Lords as well. I basically moved forward. The objective landed to just over to my right, and I was able to not only get onto the objective but also do the battle tactic of take their land, which got me the 10 points straight away, which was a good start. Ethan was only then able to get 4 points for his turn because he was unable to take the objective off. And then we had a big fight. The big fight happened in the middle. He charged his Dawn Riders in. There was a lot of endless spells going off, and the wind charger. The biggest mistake I made during this point was allowing the spirit of the wind, the Fox, to get out of combat and survive with 1 wound. Sadly, there was a lot of 5-up ward saves were being made, and he was able to survive. In hindsight, I should have probably smashed it with the spell in my turn to get rid of that ward save, and then just killed it. But I was hoping that with the endless spell, the Saurus and the Croxagores and everything else coming in, that I was going to be able to get rid of it. But sadly, that's not what happened. I think Ethan's biggest mistake was probably teleporting the wind charges from my bottom right-hand corner of my table right in front of me in the middle, which allowed my Agrodons to come round and get a charge, and basically obliterated them. And then from that point on, he was pretty much not left with very much. Croxagores did Croxagore stuff, and we started seeing a pattern. And you'll see a pattern as I go through the games of pretty much why Croxagores are amazing. But yeah, it was a really good game. It was super fun, really chill. First of the week, first of the event, and I was like super stoked that I got my first win. And yeah, then we went into game 2. So game 2, I played a guy called Glenn, who is a very, very good player, to the point where he played Solomon, who, as you can see, won his second GT in a row, and played, and he was playing Blades of Corn. And unfortunately, Glenn was incredibly unlucky, and it was probably my most fun game of the entire weekend. It was so close. It ended 33 to 32. Sorry, 31 to Glenn. 2 points in it. Now, it literally went down to if Glenn could score a battle tactic on the top end of turn 4, round 4. If I'd have stopped him from scoring a battle tactic, I was guaranteed 10 points in round 5, and I would have got my 10 points. And it would have ended up 31 to 28 to me. Another minor victory, but it would have been in my win rather than his. And it was so good. The highlights for me for the game was his Bloodthirster on turn 1 failing 2 7-inch charges. He failed it the first time, command point re-rolled it, then failed it again, and my Agrodon Lancers charged him and lifted it. Then in turn 4, he spent the 8 Blood Tithe points, brought it back, and then failed a 9-inch charge, command pointed it, failed it again, which then resulted in my 3 extremely buffed up Croxagores going in and literally one-shotting it. It was mental, absolutely nuts. Like, I think after the initial the two big weapons that were doing damage for a hit, I'd finished, and he'd finished doing his ward saves. I did try to turn off the ward with my little skink priest, and unfortunately, I failed to roll the spell, and so he still had his ward. But by the time he's done his ward saves, he was left with 4 wounds. And then my final Croxagore swung and did 12 more damage, and which ultimately seen him dead. From that point there, he was pretty much left with 2 heroes. He had like a Slaughter Priest and the Skull Taker, and I got the Skull Taker to down about 1 point, and he basically all he had to do was get to my territory, my piece of terrain, and take their land, and we got his battle tactic. I tried everything I could, threw shackles out on him, reduced his movement by 3, did everything, did a counter charge to try to get a unit in to get into combat with him, which resulted me just having to miss out on that. But I went into the Slaughter Priest on the objective and took him out. So he only got the 4 points, which was enough to give him that win. It was super close and a super fun game, and he was a super great guy to play with. So yeah, really look forward to seeing Glenn at more events. In round 3, it ended out. We finished up on the Saturday. Finished the Saturday's gaming, and I played my friend Colin, who is Old Man Cochrane, who you may, if you know the tournament scene for Age of Sigmar, and you've come across the Northern Irish team, you'll have met Colin. He is the old man of the team, and we even have a Most Sporting Award named after him, the Colin Cochrane Best of Sport, because he always wins it, because he's a really good guy. He played the Stormcast Eternals. You've probably already seen my video on the Pelennors, and he was the one that brought the 2 units of 6 Pelennors, a unit of 6 Longstrike Raptors, some 10 and Vindicators. Is it Vindicators? The Stormcast with the big 2-handed swords, and he had a couple of heroes as well. And yeah, didn't go very well. I think it ended up 50 points, which he maxed out entirely on points, to 22 to me. It was a complete bloodbath. It was literally the last stand of the dinosaurs, and yeah, there was very little I could do. Those Pelennors were mental. Teleporting Vanguard Raptors bouncing around the place was also really, really nasty. But yeah, all in all, it was a super fun game, and I always enjoy playing Colin. It was really good. So that's how the first day I'd basically had one win, one major win, a minor loss, and then a major loss. So I was feeling pretty confident about myself, and I went into Sunday morning. I had not gone out drinking. I'd had a few pints that day, but I hadn't gone out drinking that night. And I believe there was a lot of busting of shapes on the dance floor that night. There was a lot of sore heads the next day. All in all, I think we lost one player the next morning. I think, which is it's normally expected on a 2-day. You normally get some sort of casualties at some point. But yeah, it was all in all, it was quite good. Everyone seemed to be well up for it on the second day, which was really good. Atmosphere was still pretty high, and everyone was pretty happy. It was incredibly warm in the venue, but all in all, it was good. I had my juice with me, plenty of fluid. Donuts turned up later on that day. Everything was great. And then my round 4, I played my friend Will from who used to play, and I believe may still do, but he definitely did used to play for Team Ireland, south of Ireland. Will's a great player. I've known Will for quite a while, met him around at events and stuff, and was just a great guy, but never really had the chance to get to play him. He was playing Lumineth Realm Lords, which was basically a Venari host. I felt quite confident because I'd already played Lumineth Realm Lords and beaten the crap out of them, so I was like, okay, my army's pretty better in combat than this. I can do a lot of damage here. Let's do this. So I went hard on turn 1. Got the charge in, and Will did some amazing shenanigans. He screened me out with his Purple Sun, stopping that big gap where I was definitely going to go into hitting those extremely nuts River Dancers and his Sentinels, which then, because I didn't really want to get into fight with the Sun, I decided to go to the right, and he redeployed and pulled his Wardens across, closing the gap, stopping me from being able to get in and around at his heroes and the Sentinels in the back. Now, in hindsight, maybe what I should have done is just hit the Purple Sun to the left, and then basically piled in a little bit, trying to tag the River Dancers, and then maybe I could have put a lot of damage into them. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, and it's also really good to look back at games and think, right, if I'd have done this a little bit different, it would have definitely changed the overall of the game. But that was about the one thing that I did relatively right. I moved forward, I taken the center, I did all of that, and I thought, okay, this is going to go quite well. And then everything fell apart. My dice rolls were horrendous. I wasn't able to get spells off that I needed. Couldn't get ender spells off that I needed. Couldn't get abilities off that I needed. I couldn't trigger abilities from ender spells that I already had out on the board that required a dice roll. My saves were terrible. My attacks were terrible. I think I only got a decent roll like later on when I scored a 7 on a charge, but pretty much everything from up until that point was like horrendous. It was just so bad. Not to take away from Will's gameplay, he did it perfectly. He got his River Dancers over on the flank. I ballsily played 2 CP to try to countercharge them, and I needed an 8 on my charge, and I got a 6. Ripping, and I know fine well that if my Croxagores had got into them, I'd have killed them, and it would have probably taken a major threat off the board, which would have probably helped in the long run. His Blade Lords did the work amazingly. They are crazy, really good. So if you're a Lumineth player and don't use them, a unit of 10 of these guys buffed up is scary. But yeah, all in all, Will took it. He ended up getting the double turn as well, which to really drive home that things weren't going my way. And he forfeited the points, but he didn't really need to because he basically wiped out practically most of my army on his turn. And yeah, it just went completely bad from that point. And then I thought, you know what, we'll see what damage my Croxagores can do. And the shenanigans afoot, he dropped the shackles just in front of me to stop me from being able to get around, but we worked out that there was enough room for me to get a model in and around, and I was able to get my battle tactic by slaying his general and slaying the entourage, which was kind of cool. But the damage has been done at that point, and the game ended 28-12 to Will, so it was a good win for him. So I was a bit like, oh, damn, I really needed to win that because I was really hoping to try to get a 3-2. And I was like, okay. And then at the end of that round, the kind of sort of news come out that my previous opponent that I played the day before, Glenn, who with his Blades of Corn, had just beat the Freddie who is the England Six Nations champion. So England Six Nations captain of the Six Nations team. And that was a major upset because everyone kind of expected Freddie or Solomon to win the event. And then Glenn beats Freddie. And everyone's like, holy crap. Now, I just got Glenn to a 33-31 minor win for him. So I felt really good about my performance in that game and felt a lot better about my performance along the whole event. And my confidence kind of come back a little bit. I was like, okay, the guy that I almost beat has just beaten one of the top players in England. So I feel pretty good about that. And he's now probably going to go and play Solomon in the last round. So I was like, okay, I'm feeling good. I'm happy. I'm not too down in the dumps that things kind of just went completely bad in round 4. So pick yourself up. Let's go into round 5 and let's do this. Let's finish on a high. And I couldn't have asked for a better game for round 5. One, it was against a really cool guy called Jables, who was playing Magikin of Nurgle. And last year, my final game of round 5 was against Jables and his Magikin of Nurgle. So it was like, yes, it's a rematch and payback. And last year he beat me, and this year I paid back big time. I destroyed his Nurgle army. Pretty much, I think I left him with 2 Blightkin by the end of it, and it was a really big win for me. I got 48 points. I only dropped 2 points, and that was my choice. I decided not to move out onto the objective on turn 1, which would have got me the full 10 points, and I only got 8 points in round 1, in turn 1, and then I continued getting 10 points throughout the rest of the rounds, and it was great. I felt really bad for him. I had to actually get up and give Jables a hug because he went for the Chaos battle tactic where he had to take an objective and he had to assault with a charge with at least 2 units. And out of all of his units that could charge, that actually needed to charge, he failed all of the charges. He had no CP for the rerolls, and he literally failed a 3-inch charge, which I was a 4-inch charge. So I was really felt bad for him. The one thing that he did was he still had 2 units. He had his general and a little unit of like cultists, Nurgle cultists from Warcry. And he basically threw them at me to basically, knowing that I would kill them, but I was killing them in his turn, so to try to deny me the battle tactic for later on, which I didn't really need because I still had the potential of doing retake the realms where 1 unit in each quarter, and I still had the take the flanks as well, which I was able to do anyway. But all in all, that game went great, and it was just a fun game, and it was a really good way of sort of finishing off the event. I started off with a pretty big win, and I finished it off on a pretty big win. And I had a couple of losses in the middle, and a really fun close game in the middle as well. So it was kind of a mixture of everything. So 5 amazing opponents with 5 great games, and that's what you want from Age of Sigmar competitive. You want, it doesn't really matter about the score, and I think as a player, I've definitely changed so much from my outlook at games, especially at events from last year. Last year, I ended up with the same result, a 2 wins, 3 losses, but I felt really downhearted and I felt really frustrated and kind of really annoyed at myself because I didn't do as well as I hoped. And I think that's because I was too fixated on trying to get like a 3-2 and end as high as I could on the table. When in reality, I knew that's probably, let's be fair, that probably wasn't going to happen. This year, I just didn't care. I didn't really care about the table. I didn't actually check the final standings until I was on my way to the train station or sat at the train station on the way home. And even then I was like, oh, cool, I actually improved. Last year, I ended up 31. This year, I come 27th, which was, it's an improvement. But yeah, it was good. And I think not getting annoyed during games and feeling frustrated and down. I was still enjoying myself. I was still rolling dice and having a giggle. And I think that's a more healthier way of looking at it. I think if you're getting frustrated and angry because your dice rolls aren't going well, or you're not playing to the best of your abilities, is not great, and you should try to get yourself out of that mentality. And if that means just not caring about the final standings and they're purely just to roll dice, that's what you should do. And I definitely did that this year, and it was a giggle. So it was all fun. So yeah, big ups for that one. All in all, I think I really enjoyed using my Seraphon. Like I said, I've got hold of the chameleons, and that will change up my list somewhat. And I think the more I push them around a bit more, the more I think I'll get better at them. Croxagore are amazing, and I'm going to do my other video series that I've started highlighting different units and sort of talking about them in more in depth. I'll definitely look at the Croxagore. I know there's 2 versions of them, and I'll do both versions in the video rather than just single out the warp spawn, which is the ones I used. Agrodons were really good. Slan are amazing. Like, your entire army builds around this Slan, the frog, and it's such a really good model. Now, you could potentially have scope of having 2, but they are quite expensive, and to take 2, you would lose out on a lot. But a nice big block of 6 Agrodons and a veteran is great. I would be interested to see what a pure Agrodon army with a couple of Carnosaurs leading them would do. I think that would be a really fun army. Maybe something that I might build into in the future, but who knows. But all in all, I really, really enjoyed the event. I really enjoyed 4th edition. It was such great... really fun to play, and I think the more games I'm having, the more and more I'm falling in love with this edition. It's not different. It doesn't play different from 3rd, if you can understand me, but there's enough difference in the rule sets that it feels different, but it doesn't feel unfamiliar. It's just good. So yeah, hats off to GW for writing a pretty decent rule set. I'd be still interested in seeing what they do with the FAQ. We had an event FAQ to fix a couple of the ambiguities that people are a little bit unsure of, and I'm sure when Games Workshop do the official FAQ for 4th edition, some of the FAQs that we've got will probably land in the same way. But all in all, it was a really good event. Atmosphere was belting. It was really good to see old friends again that I haven't seen for a while, pre-COVID. From team events and big events that we were doing before COVID. So it was really good to see these guys again. It was really good to see new faces. We had people from Scotland. We had a guy from France. We had a couple of guys from the south of Ireland who come up. We had obviously Team England players turning up, and it was just such a good event. It was really, really great. So really can't wait till next year's event. It's going to be bigger. So the guys have said that they're going to be able to push it up to about 50 people, which is going to be really, really cool. And it is pretty much the largest Age of Sigmar event in Northern Ireland, which is always nice to see that it's growing. And it was super fun. Cannot wait to get it. So really look forward to next year's event. So that's the video. Thought I'd just do this video. I hope you really enjoyed the start. I kind of played around with that kind of thing. So if you like that, let me know in the comments. Big shout out to Ethan, Colin, Glenn, Will, and Jables for the 5 amazing games. Thank you very much for making my weekend incredibly fun. And big shout out to Stevie, Archie, and Neil for putting it on, and all of the hard work that they do. And it's not just those, like Pete Pratt, who printed out or painted up a lot of the scenery for them as well. There's other guys from the club, Exploding Dice, that supplied terrain and stuff like that. So it's just a big community effort to get this done. So yeah, big shout out to all of those peeps. It was really good to see, and if this is what we can do now, I can't wait to see what they're doing in the end. And another thing as well, the painting standard as well for the armies was really, really good as well. So yeah, really cool. So all in all, everyone that got chopped out, for obviously Solomon for winning, Hayden for coming second, and who came third? Who came third? I can't remember. They're all in there, the photos at the beginning anyway, and all of the sports and the painting awards and everything else. Absolute cracking. Great event, and I will see you all in the next one. So if you haven't yet subscribed to the video, please do. There's going to be a lot more Age of Sigmar content coming, Old World content, 40k content, and a lot more content in general. And yeah, and check out my members and Patreon areas. And I will catch you all later, everybody. Goodbye for now.